6 to 8 weeks, Chris Paul will be sidelined with a sprained thumb, an injury that at first I thought was just a minor injury has turned into the every single year between December and March. Multiple Clippers miss multiple weeks of action. Francis Maxwell, unlike Blake Griffin, where we always say, well, they still got Chris Paul and DeAndre, and even when they lose DeAndre, well, they still got Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. This one's a little different because they lose Chris Paul. Francis Maxwell, here's their schedule. 2 home games, one of which of those home games, I'm sorry, no home games.
No home games at
all.
all.
The one home game they do have, Thursday, February 2nd, is against the Golden State Warriors. While the Nuggets and the Hawks might not be the most difficult teams to face, the Warriors, the Celtics, the Raptors, the Hornets, and the Jazz on the road are not easy teams to face. It couldn't come at a worse time. And they've been surging. They've been playing well. They've ripped off winning streaks. And the Chris Paul-DeAndre duo has always looked good. Francis, can they survive this 8-week stretch without losing too much ground?
The only point I will say is it could have came at a worse time. Last year it came at the playoffs. I mean, and that's where fair. I think it could have come at a worse time at in the regular season. Probably not. You have a large string of traveling. I always wonder who makes these schedules. I really think they're high. Like, I really think they just love to send people. Like, you're going to Philly, then you're going to come back to Golden State, and you're going to play them there, and then you're going to play a home game, and then you're going to go back out. Like, I just feel like if you really wanted to, I think you could try and find a way to hit most of the traveling games at the same time. And I know they do try and do that, but I feel like they just try to wind up the Clippers. Yeah, I think if it happens in the playoffs, it's Dan sitting here. He's a Clippers fan through and through. I don't need to remind him of what happens nearly every year. I think there was a statistic I was reading as I was doing my research, and it's like 5 straight years Chris Paul has missed a period of time that's not of like a small couple of games, but it's like 6, 7, 8 weeks missing parts of the season. Yeah. Last year, correct me if I'm wrong, it was a hamstring injury. The year before, I believe it was his knee. And then you're just playing head, shoulders, knees, and toes at this point. When you have to put
the whole franchise on your back, a lot of injuries can ensue from it.
Which usually doesn't hurt your thumbs, unless you're like walking on your hands like Tarzan. I don't know.
Well, that's why Chris Paul was so mad. It came against the Oklahoma City Thunder, which they actually had no problem beating because Steven Adams wasn't there for the Thunder, so they had nobody to really defend the paint. But it was a foul that Chris Paul was so angry about because he sprained his thumb because of that injury. So I originally saw that, and it doesn't seem that bad. Yeah. I thought it was going to be, a couple taking it day-to-day, as they call it, day-to-day injury. With this one, though, it's a significant amount of time. They're not going to miss the playoffs. They're going to lose a little bit of ground because the NBA standings, you already have 3 teams above 30 wins in the Western Conference, the Warriors, Spurs, and Rockets in that order, and now the Clippers have fallen technically to the 4 seed. But let's take a look at Chris Paul for this significant chunk, though. A lot of it's going to come down to playoff position, and you want to be in that top 4 because you want to get a matchup against the Jazz, Grizzlies, Thunder, or at this point, I guess, the Nuggets. Yep. You don't want to be in that bottom 4 and have to face, if you slip too far, you got to face a good Rockets team, or even worse, a Spurs or a Warriors. I don't think the Clippers are an 8 seed this year, though.
I think it's a precaution. I think that, they're going to give you the 6 to 8 weeks, and it might not be that long. It might be that length, but you just got to be safe. I think we don't need to remind any Clippers fan or owner or player of how much they suffered last year in the playoffs without Chris Paul. It's a worst-case scenario for them. You mentioned it. They survived pretty well without Blake Griffin. So much so that they felt, do we even need him? They've survived without DeAndre Jordan. Yes, he's an essential part of their team, and when you have DeAndre and Chris Paul, that's a recipe when it's on form, is devastating for opponents. But without Chris Paul,
that team struggles to win 35 games.
That team automatically drops out. I think top 6, top 7 in the Western Conference.
Look, we see what happens when Raymond Felton fills in, and he does it's actually the one thing the Clippers did this year that they've done better than any of the years past with the injuries is the signings of Raymond Felton and Maurice Spates. Depth is so important. And somehow Austin Rivers is, anybody I peg as the worst player in the NBA usually comes back a little bit better. Yeah. So far, Austin Rivers and Nick Young, look out next year, draft them for your fantasy team. Whoever I decide is the worst player in the league will end up having a good year. But Raymond Felton has been competent enough, to keep them and run the point as a veteran. It's what you want, but you can't put 40 minutes on Raymond Felton. You can barely put 36 minutes on Raymond Felton. Maurice Spates, on the other hand, in terms of the depth for the front court rotation, he's got it. Dan, how much do we love most Spates? Most Spates is a thumbs up guy. Most Spates dropped like 23, 10, and 5.
Mo buckets.
Most Spates is going to drop a triple-double from the bench at some point.
And this is another reason why when you listen to people like LeBron James talk about we need to strengthen up the point guard position, even though he has technically another 2 behind Kyrie that can still do a great job. It's like, he's not saying this for the good of his health. Like, he worries that an injury can happen at any point and you need to have a backup in there who necessarily, I mean, it's impossible to try and have 2 All-Stars just waiting in line behind a Chris Paul, right? No one's going to want to do that. But you need to have a system that isn't, if you don't have someone who's going to step in and do a phenomenal job, you have to have a system that's almost so bulletproof that, yeah, you're going to suffer because you're not going to have someone as talented, but you can still fit someone in. But the system quite literally runs through Chris Paul in a way that if you put someone else in there, it just doesn't work.
Nate Robinson said he's looking for a phone call.
Hit him up.
Nate Robinson would be super fun to see back in the NBA. So
he was playing the last time we did a Nate Robinson video.
Israel.
He was traveling through Israel, and some random guy challenged him to pick up game.
Yeah.
So he doesn't. I
From
mean, he
his
doesn't
bike.
shy away from a challenge.
I will beat you one-on-one.
I will beat you.
One-on-one, Nate Robinson. I will beat you. And he's like, wait, what? All right,
Sure.
court over there.
There's a court literally right there.
I would love to see Nate Robinson back in just
Maybe
a
Rondo. Rondo's not happy.
You don't want Rajon Rondo. You don't want Rajon. Quick stat about Rajon Rondo. Every rotation that they run that has Rondo in it has a negative net rating in terms of offense and defense on the floor. So much so that Jeremiah Grant has like a much better rating than with him on the floor. I don't know what the hell's up with Rajon Rondo.
Reunite with the Pergioni.
Doc Rivers is the one person. Maybe that, actually, you know what? Maybe.
I'm not just saying this stuff for the good of my health, Jason.
Maybe Rajon Rondo, but Dan doesn't want Rondo. I don't think he wants Rondo.
No, he doesn't want him. Thumbs down for that.
Dan's in charge of the Clippers, if anybody didn't know.
Dan's a thumbs up, thumbs down to our man, and we take those points. We take them on board.
Trade Blake for Nate Robinson. Comment below, like, favorite, stuff. You could have Mello. Comment below all the good stuff, and let us know how the Clippers will do without CP3.